The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. You're on the air because we're open line today. Whatever's on your mind, call 66 13 68, text 166 177, WhatsApp 166 177, or email studio@manxradio.com. If you listened yesterday to Teresa Cope, the chief exec of Manx Care, I just wonder what you thought of what she had to say. I think the underlying theme of everything was, it was all about money, wasn't it? The fact that the dentists may be getting more because they run businesses. The GPs mostly are their own businesses. They're obviously in Ballasalla, that's DHSC or Manx Care. Part of the problem with the issue with the budget, of course, is that the unions always want more money for their members. And then again, that's their job to advocate on behalf of their members for improved terms and conditions. So it's all about money. She mentioned yesterday the cost of medications going up, more and more procedures available, and they all cost money. So is this, I don't know whether you kind of read between the lines, that used to happen all the time with the DHSC. The DHSC's budget would be set and they'd be going back to Tynwald all the time for more money. When I say all the time, I mean periodically. They would go back. So the same thing, plus ça change, plus à la même chose. Anyway, any thoughts about that? Oh, tomorrow, just big news tomorrow. Michelle Haywood, DOI Ministers on Mannin Line tomorrow. So we can talk about the Department of Infrastructure. And bearing in mind we were talking about housing earlier on this week, Michelle Haywood told Keys she's going to consult with stakeholders looking to introduce legislation to increase the social housing income threshold. She told the House of Keys local authorities currently follow guidance to select who can be allocated a property. It was also confirmed during the sitting that the department's consulting with stakeholders about amendments to housing legislation, and that'll be brought to Tynwald before the end of the year. She said it's basically up to individual local authorities to either allow officers to make the decision or set up a committee or a joint board. So that's important. And obviously the DOI is a huge department. I mean, it is a huge department, but Michelle Haywood took the job on earlier on this year. And not without its challenges. Obviously, there's that overspend on the Liverpool landing stage. The Douglas Promenade refurbishment really has yet to be, well, put it this way, there are still teething problems with stuff around there, even though it's what it is. And the decision was to cut car parking. Many spaces went when Douglas Promenade was repositioned, as it were, and rezoned, remodelled. And now we've lost those unauthorised car parking spaces at Lord Street in Douglas. Yeah, the Craignish bus service, and obviously this 20 mile per hour limit. I don't know whether you were at the consultation yesterday at the sea terminal with Michelle Haywood. Anyway, she's on tomorrow. You can talk to Michelle Haywood, MHK, Minister at the Department of Infrastructure. And also, the Family Library is going. The organisation, the Family Library, made the announcement on social media. Very modern, last night, saying all lending, which includes the mobile and delivery services, will cease on the 18th of July and will formally close on the 31st of July. So the mobile library, it seems, is going to be no more. Now, if you use the mobile library, or you know somebody who does, I just wonder, it's one of those services that's gone under the radar. The people who use it love it. Obviously, it's a minority of people who use the mobile library, but for those people who do use it, it is a real treasure. And it seems like it's going with the rest of the family library. Anyway, thoughts on that and anything else? And the Peel Beach, maybe, E. coli free in 2028. And Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. That's a short notice announcement that the DOI Minister will be on tomorrow.
Well, she's on tomorrow, and you can have a chat with her tomorrow.
I'm sure. Hopefully, I will. I attended the 20-mile-an-hour drop-in session at the sea terminal yesterday.
Yeah.
It became evident that there is something missing in the planning of the rollout. A traffic flow specialist. A traffic flow specialist would have immediately commented on the folly of including arterial and distributor roads in 20-mile-an-hour limits. One of the research papers that I've looked at said that you can think in terms of the human body. For example, in Onken, Main Road and Avondale Road, Onken, are the arteries in the body, just like the main roads through Colby, Kirkmichael, Lazaire Road, Ramsey, and so on. And if you slow down these arterial roads, it's like our heart trying to pump blood through narrower tubes. And if you start doing blanket changes like this within these towns, it could be seen like prescribing a drug that slows your whole body system down. You can also look at inflexible traffic lights or like inflexible heart valves. Also, there's a couple of industry standard traffic flow analysis software packages which should have been used, like there's a German one called Visim and there's an Italian one called AimSum. If you scale it to the island, they're estimating a 15 to 40% worsening of traffic throughput in peak times. Journey times increased by 25% at peak times, especially for commuters and parents on the school run, exacerbated if the kids require two different drop-offs. So if you've got somebody at primary and another kid at secondary school, that's going to be quite a problem. You've also got economic consequences. Road haulage companies, they depend on, say, meeting the boat at around 5 to 5:30 in the morning. Now, getting up early could accumulate to a whopping 3.5 whole days or 83 hours worth of sleep lost in a year just by getting up at those earlier times, which, of course, could increase the potential for accidents. And then, of course, you've got, as you mentioned earlier, increased healthcare costs. Due to sleep deprivation, increasing the burden on the cash-strapped health service. Driving diesel haulage trucks at 20 through Onken and this type of thing, it not only increases fuel consumption by up to 15%, so you could be looking at least £20 extra diesel per day per truck. A missed ferry load, if for any reason they oversleep or whatever, can incur contractual penalties up to £1,500 a load. DPF filter, you've got extra servicing and regeneration cycles, and this stop-start bunching that you get in 20s will include clutch wear, which is one of the big expensive items. So you're looking at an increase of servicing lifetime labour costs of around 25%. So overall, the haulage costs could go up by as much as 30%. And guess who's going to pay for that, Andy?
Us.
And it's going to come in the form of supermarkets, construction, agriculture, mail services, and then all the knock-ons. Mobile carers, there's a model that estimates that on the island, if you were to do this, you're looking at around 20% fewer patients visited without major increases in staff and cars, which I would have thought would have increased pollution. That's 6,250 patients that will lose a visit over a year. 6,250 patients less if you just do as we're doing but have the 20 limit in with all the time loss. Environmental consequences.
How did you work all this out, Julian?
Yeah, it's just research and then scaling it from different places,
right,
especially in England, because we don't really want to be talking about super high places with high population densities. Yeah. And speaking of England, environmental consequences, a report by DEFRA in the UK in evaluations of 20-mile-an-hour rollouts in Portsmouth, Edinburgh and Bristol stated that particulate matter increased by up to 20%. Nitrogen oxide, which I seem to remember is the one they were crying on about at the power station, up by 15%. And CO2, which I don't have a problem with, 10%. Overall air pollution quality was worse by 20% compared to when it was a 30. Then you've got tourism revenue losses. If you extrapolate from what Wales reported, you could be looking at tens of millions a year in lost tourism on the island, perhaps a Liverpool ferry terminal type loss every year.
What was the mood of the consultation yesterday, by the way?
I didn't find any member of the public that was for it at all, and some people were actually quite angry with this, and they feel like they're not being listened to. You see, I don't have a problem with 20 where it's suitable, but restricting these arterial and distributor roads is like clogging up your arteries in your heart and your body. It's going to have consequences. I mean, just if you think of something different, Laxey with those floods. What happened when a bus went through that collapsed bridge and blocked up the river? You didn't get a lot of flow, did you? And it ended up in chaos.
Yeah.
You're looking at driving stress. You're looking at increased pollution, obviously from the DEFRA report. You've got potential stress from businesses collapsing, especially if costs get so high that things get worse for people who are dependent on. You've got reliability to businesses if the haulage, because the haulage is one of the primary kind of seeds to how everything works here. If you've got increased accident risks, and that's another thing, if you fall asleep because you've had to get up at 3 a.m. to make the boat or whatever.
But Julian, if this 20 mile per hour limit saves one life, just one life, will it not be worth it?
Well, the record shows that the Chief Constable doesn't seem to think that it will make any impact. So you've got to go with the person who's the expert. Yeah. I mean, he's at the forefront of this. And that medical cost, the estimate for the island could be somewhere in the region of an extra £30 million on our healthcare, just in things like extra accidents caused by sleep deprivation from people having to get up earlier to make haulage trips, or delivery drivers having to, unless they're prepared to increase the number of vehicles and staff, in which case you're going to get even more pollution. So the whole thing doesn't make sense when you actually sit back and think about it.
Okay. Somebody's just dropped a note in just to say Julian's hypothesis is all well and good, but accept that nobody's going to stick to these limits because nobody's going to control it. We've had 20 miles per hour in Ballasalla for 20 years, and lorries still trundle through at 40 miles per hour. That's John F. So if we have a speed limit with no sanction, what's the point?
Well, you've got two things there. The first one is there's almost undoubtedly going to be some kind of enforcement. They did it in Wales. They just rolled it out. They just rolled all the speed limits out, and then all of a sudden they hit it hard. 54% increase in driving fines. People incensed at getting a fine and 3 points on their license for doing 25 or 26 miles an hour in a road that they've been doing 30 all their lives. And the second thing is, you've kind of got self-enforcement. I mean, how many times have you driven on a no-speed limit road like the Mountain and had somebody doing 35 in front of you? There will be an element of people who will stick to this, if you know what I mean. So there's a kind of a self-enforcement thing with this. But the whole problem with all this is, even if that happens, it's already been stated by the DOI Minister and also the Chief Constable that there will be no health impact whatsoever with this safety impact. Right. And from the DEFRA UK report and the EU Commission, your overall air quality is going to get worse by 20% because you've got cars doing second and idling in long traffic queues.
Okay.
That's hardly going to improve people's quality of life, I wouldn't have thought.
All right. Good to hear from you. Thanks, Julian. And remember, Michelle Haywood is on tomorrow. DOI Minister will be on. We'll obviously be talking about the 20 mile per hour. I'd be surprised if we got through an hour without talking about the 20 mile per hour limit tomorrow. That's Michelle Haywood, but lots more as far as DOI is concerned. What do you think of this family library thing? But the closure of the family library, another Julian, Port St Mary, said the silence from our masters shames the Isle of Man to the core. Just wondering if the airport has had any plans for a proper bridge connecting the terminal to the planes. It's not easy coming down the steps with a cabin bag outside in the rain and the wind. I nearly took off the other week, not in the plane, but off the steps. Seems silly going downstairs to go upstairs. It's like an assault course with a cabin bag. That's Susan in Dorby. Thanks also to, with this, the kind of people driving at 15 miles per hour, will that make it even safer? Want to make it 10 miles per hour? And also a note from Yvonne, who said, following on from what Julian said, there will always be people who will observe speed limits, and they slow everybody down, said Yvonne. It's normally two people in Nissan Micras who do it, and if you drive a Nissan Micra, I do apologise. That's Yvonne's point of view. People in Nissan Micra slow everybody down. Rob Callister says he wants to see what the government is going to do to ensure some sort of service starts if the family library closes at the end of next month. Do you use the family library? Do you know somebody who does? Do you use the mobile library? Will you miss it? Here's Oncon MHK Rob Callister.
I'm extremely disappointed for the people that rely so heavily on the family library and on the mobile library, who rely on those services within our community. But I think really need to get to the bottom of who actually relies heavily on the mobile library, who relies heavily on the family library, because Douglas does have more than one library. So hopefully people will be able to move from the family library in Douglas to an alternative library. But for me, it's the mobile library. Who relies on that within our community? What can we do to make sure those people, and some of those will be elderly, some people will rely on that connection in our community. It may be the only contact they get each week, when they swap their books. So it's important to understand who's going to be affected by this closure, or hopefully it's a temporary closure. And then what then happens afterwards? What will the Manx government be doing to make sure we've got some sort of library service in the further reaches of our community? Because it's really positive to make sure that people who live on their own, elderly, young mums who are stuck at home, that they have an avenue to engage with our communities. And we've had this conversation so many times in this administration, the closure of our post offices, that person going into the post office to access them services, then going into the library to pick up a book, then going into the shops. It's about interaction within our communities. And if you actually take the mobile library, that really goes out into the countryside where there is no shops or no post office. So it's about making sure that there is a connection within our community, because as a small island, we really do need to rely heavily on all of the services that are available, but also having that wider connection within our community here on the island.
Of course, it's down to money. It is £100,000 the family library needs. It's been on a decreasing grant, if you like, from government over the last few years. You have to ask, by the way, whether or not they saw this coming, because to say that you're going to close within, 5-6 weeks, as they have done, is somewhat precipitous. So did they plan for this? Had they got anything in tow that was going to perhaps bolster their finances? We don't know at the moment. When we don't know, all we know is that the family library could be going. From the answer phone.
Hi Andy, hi listeners, it's Nick, sometimes contributor. I was just walking my dog and it's 6:30ish, and where I live now, I've seen more and more people walking their dogs without them being on a lead, what is called being at large. So I looked it up, whether it's a Ramsey bylaw, and it is. I've just come across some fella who's come out of his apartment with his dog running amok, running around, sniffing around on the prom, and he's like well out of reach of this dog owner. And the guy is, I kid you not, rolling a bag, and how he's doing it because he can barely look through his eyes. and he's got like 5 days of growth on his face. And I'm thinking, there's no way on this earth I'm going to confront this guy and be all high and mighty and say, why isn't your dog on a lead? It's just not worth it. So anyway, I think it's just a gripe. I don't know what to do because nobody seems to give a damn anymore. It's just people, if they're not picking up after the dog or walking the dog without the lead, what do you do? I mean, some people's moral compasses are going over the Bermuda Triangle, let's put it that way. They're not pointing north. So anyway, that's my opinion. I think something should be done. We need a dog warden. Anyway, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
So if there is a bylaw in Ramsey that you have to have your dog on a lead and people aren't doing it, what do you do? Do you approach somebody? I mean, if the guy had several days of beard growth and looked a bit unkempt, would you? Big guy, would you approach him and say, your dog's out of control, your dog's at large, you should be on a lead, you should be taking notice of your dog? What would you do? That's in Ramsey on the promenade, and if it's something you're familiar with, then by all means do get in touch. Again, this comes under antisocial behaviour. Gary dropped a note in just to say, Andy, a lady with an Eskimo-type hood pulled up, covering her head and obscuring her lateral vision, walked straight across a road junction in front of a turning vehicle this morning. Now, if pedestrians are going to jaywalk recklessly into the road, then a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit will not save them from going under and being injured by an SUV weighing, about 1.5 to 2 tons. The DOI minister says she wants to own the 20-mile-per-hour strategy in the safe knowledge that Douglas and Oncombe voters do not live in her constituency. Well, we'll hear tomorrow, Gary, but that is a very good point taken. That there are and as a driver, I've seen it. I don't know whether other people have seen it, but turning into roads and suddenly pedestrians wander willy-nilly across the road. Occasionally, not always, but occasionally with earbuds in. And if you have the temerity to indicate to the pedestrian that they shouldn't be doing that, well, the best I can say is they look at you gone out, and sometimes with a little more aggression. So this works both ways, don't you think? It's Dewan now. Hi, Dewan. You were at the meeting, weren't you?
I was indeed, Andy. Yes, I was indeed, and I've got to say a little thank you to Dr. Hayward for staying the extra hour last night to listen to us. Fair play. She took quite a bit on the chin last night, bless her. You were talking about the mood of the room. I have to agree with Julian. I don't think there was anyone there that was in favour of the proposed scheme in its present form. What did I come away with from it last night? Well, seemingly this was born out of a little jaunt by John Shimmons and Dudley Butt many years ago on a little thing that they brought back on sustainable growth from somewhere, sustainable societies, and that was sold into Tynwald. And it was then brought up again by Bill Shimmons, and taken on by Anne Cole. It seemed to be a reasonable manner that Anne presented it in around schools and important areas. And now, of course, we are where we are. So this has been bandied around for some time, but originated back from this little jaunt from John Shimmons and Dudley, but I believe was an MLC, I think, going back then, wasn't he? Yeah. Former prosecutor. I've just driven down the road through Glenvine to Peel. Beautiful day, actually, in Peel, by the way, and 30 mile an hour going through Glenvine. I felt very comfortable with the safety, my stopping distances and everything else. So, as Julian said, if you're going to start clogging up arterial roads, for what purpose? Because a question was asked on their data, what data they have. And again, the reasoning for bringing this in, we're going on, and you said before about saving one life. Well, people who are going to go 20 mile an hour are going to go 20 mile an hour. People are going to go 50. They're going to go 50 anyway. They're going to speed anyway. The 20 mile an hour thing, I just think it's going to cause so many problems. We had a guy there at the meeting yesterday who was very vocal, who is in haulage. He travels at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning to do his haulage runs. And as he said, I'm going to be busy watching my speedometer, making sure that I don't do any more than 20 miles an hour in case I get fined, because I can't afford to lose my license and lose my job. So the knock-on effect, as Julian said with this, could be quite extreme. Now, the presentation there, we had a couple of people from government, and we're actually talking to the guy who had the red marker pen, who's changed everything from green to red. And this is like, well, you'll get used to it. You didn't have seatbelts at one time, and now you do. We'll get used to it. But the question has to be asked is, do we need to get used to it? Are we just implementing rules for the sake of bringing in rules? This is the problem. 30 mile an hour seems quite comfortable in most areas. 20 mile an hour with dynamic signage outside of schools, etc., is very reasonable. And the question was also asked is, how many of these poles are going to be electrified and electricity going to these poles? Again, for future, as was mentioned there, are they going to go down the routes of imposing CCTV or cameras, ANPRs, etc., on these poles? And the answer was some of them are going to be electrified, but for dynamic signage.
Well, did you feel any clearer in your thoughts or about what Michelle Haywood's view was when you came away?
About as clear as what it was on Douglas Promenade last night, Andy, with the fog. I still feel, although she tried to sell it very well, and a couple of them did, I still came out a little bit fogged as to the real reason of why this is being implemented. You're still going to get people that's going to speed, as people have said. At 20 mile an hour, if people actually, just like you said on the program before, Andy, if people actually just start driving at 20 mile an hour and see what it feels like, there's going to be problems. And all this, like, people are going to get used to it. No, I don't think people are going to get used to it. There's no need for it to start with, unless it's around schools and certain areas. And that just makes common sense. Yeah. But again, common sense was the first death of COVID, wasn't it? So we haven't got that anymore. I just think they're imposing regulations where there's no need for it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Julian. Good to hear from you.
Take care.
You're now 26 minutes before 1, and somebody dropped a note in and said, while you're generalising about Nissan Micra drivers, by the same token, what about the Subaru Impreza drivers with the big wide exhaust? Are they going to do 20 miles per hour with those high-powered Subaru Imprezas? Do you think you'll get them doing that? Apparently, said Lozzie. Hi, Lozzie. Dogs shouldn't be at large on Fenella Beach all year round, but nobody takes a blind bit of notice of this. There's a sign on the slip to the beach, but no one in Peel enforces this. Dogs should not be at large on Fenella Beach. They should be on a lead. And again, this comes down to having a law that nobody enforces. If there's a rule that says you should pick up after your dog, the dog should be on a lead, shouldn't be at large, and nobody takes a blind bit of notice, then what happens? The vast, vast majority of people who adhere to the rules adhere to the rules. The ones who are never going to don't. There's no sanction against them. So how do you think the rest of us feel if some people get away with it?
Meet Jane.
When Dad began forgetting the little things, we knew we needed help. Man Benham walked us through every step.
Real stories, real solutions. Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham.
Hi Liz, I see you've had your garage converted. We're desperate for more room.
Yes,
Come through and have a look. John called Manx Property Conversions. We now have an extra bedroom, but it could be another reception room, kids' playroom or office. They also did our conservatory roof last year. We were so impressed, we got them back to convert the garage.
Wow, I need that. What's their number again?
Call MPC on 450 500. That's 450 500. Or find them on Facebook at Manx Property Conversions.
Do you want to have your voice heard? The Isle of Man government wants to connect with you. Join the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers at a roadshow event near you. Monday the 30th of June at Ramsey Grammar School. Tuesday 1st of July at Ballacameen High School, Douglas. Wednesday the 2nd at Castle Rushen High School. And Thursday the 3rd at Queen Elizabeth II High School, Peel. All events are from 5:30 until 8 and doors open at 5:15. You'll have the chance to meet ministers one-on-one, share your thoughts on national matters and take part in a Q&A session. We're listening to you. Register your free attendance at islandplan.im/roadshows.
From the award-winning company behind last year's smash hit sellout production of Jersey Boys, Two Feathers Productions present the wildly entertaining musical comedy Little Shop of Horrors. From the 12th to the 19th of July at the Gaiety Theatre. Don't miss the thrilling man-eating spectacle Little Shop of Horrors. For tickets, call the box office or visit villagaiety.com. Sponsored by Canaccord Wealth, Outler Group, the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company, and supported by Manx Radio.
What message lies at the heart of the Isle of Man government? Is it a tax and spend government, spending all our hard-earned savings? Or is it a government that takes a more cautious approach to spending and sees income growth as a product of a growing economy? Government's Our Island plan had some bold ambition, but is it being delivered? There's one man who should know the answer to these questions, and that's Chief Minister Alf Cannon. He joins me on Perspective this Sunday at 12 on Manx Radio. Are the promises of jam tomorrow being spread a little too thinly on the Manx political jam butty?
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
23 minutes before 1. I haven't heard anybody mention the construction industry, says Steve the plumber, and how it's going to be affected by the 20 mile per hour limit. It's going to be hell on earth travelling to the merchants and customers' properties slowly, extending non-chargeable hours, so rates will go up, says Steve the plumber. Some trades travel the length of the Isle of Man every day. So much trade on the island through many sectors travel the road every day. I feel everybody's being ignored and the single person's agenda seems to be overpowering the committee of 90,000 people. The answer is to enforce the current speeds. Well, in fairness, I don't think it's a single person's agenda. It's the department's agenda. The Department of Infrastructure are the people who are behind this, and it has been on the agenda for a while. It was mentioned, Anne Corlett, whose campaign 20 is plenty was actually in her manifesto. 20 is plenty for Douglas Central. And David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. And if you can hear any noise, I'm actually getting solar panels fitted in my house.
Oh, good Lord.
10 solar panels, but I'm not getting a Green Living grant because it's not available. Well, and I wanted to talk about, you're having the Minister on tomorrow.
Yeah.
I hope you're having the Chief Executive on too, Emily Curfey, because tonight at the Municipal Association, it's not a public meeting, but all the local authorities, as far as I'm aware, are meeting in Onken at the Hub, and the Minister will be attending with the Chief Executive. And I'm sure the first subject is going to be 20, and we'll get on to other things. Why aren't they doing this and why aren't they doing that? And the other amazing thing, Andy, we missed too, is the MLCs couldn't meet on Tuesday to talk about the local government bill because they've put it back now to October.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I'm just thinking to myself, we used to be an island that can do things, can't we? We're certainly doing it on the 20 mile now like a steam train going down the tracks. But when we need legislation that affects the majority of people on the Isle of Man, is the things that should be done by the DOI, and the small things like changing legislation, or the other one is regarding the dogs as well. I know this one too. The legislation says under control. Now, the legal definition is under control is that's got to be interpreted some way. And it's only when you have an offence or something happens when you go to court and then the lawyers argue, my dog was under control. I whistled the dog and he was under control, but maybe not. These long leads are an absolute nuisance, aren't they?
Yeah.
When they go out about 30, 40 feet and they trip each other up or they trip pedestrians up.
Especially when you get two dogs with long leads and they cross and then they end up like a maypole. They go round and round and round.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is tonight we'll be the warm-up act for you. You're amazing to get the minister on and hopefully the chief executive, because you need to get somebody who's the person that designed this. Because the boys were on earlier talking about the main ulterior routes. Now, when I was there in the DOI, the main ulterior routes were out Peel Road, across the promenade, up Blackberry Lane, and up to the mountain. So they are going to you're going to be behind trucks, never mind the horse cars on the promenade. And has it been thought out? My opinion is definitely no, it hasn't. Did she consult at an early stage? No, she didn't, or the department never did it as well. And the members in the department there must be about 3 of them. There's one MLC, because she's taken this bill to the MLCs. They've been very quiet, haven't they? They haven't come out of there.
I'm trying to remember. I think it's Tanya August. It's Tanya.
Isn't it? Oh God, I forgot the name of the lady now. That's taken the bill forward. But anyway, it's. She's taken the bill forward anyway. She's in the department there regarding the local government amendments to the local government bill anyway. And it's been frozen. One of the things has been frozen. And we need to get in front of them. Because this year, I'll say it to people out there too, your local authority members are going to earn their living. Because otherwise, if we don't stop this nonsense with government departments saying this is going to happen whether you like it or not, we might as well pack up, might we? That's what I'm looking at. And I've got to say a quick word to Karush and Gary, who's working on my roof, okay, from Live Electric.
Right.
I'll let you know how I get on. Bye.
Thanks for that. Let me see, the political members, I think, in infrastructure, Laurie Hooper, Johnny Farragut, Dawn Kinnish, I think, is the MLC that's there. But we'll find out more tomorrow with Michelle Haywood talking about this. And Betty's on now. Hi, Betty.
Hi, Andy. I just want to talk about the 20-mile-per-hour bill.
Yep.
It doesn't affect me because I stopped driving last year because of my eyesight. But 2 things, really. Possibly, if they are out of the 20-mile-per-hour zone, drivers might drive even faster to make up time. That's one thought. And the other thought is, would it be possible to have pedestrian crossings where there are houses on roads where there might be accidents rather than 20 miles per hour? Might that be better? It's just a thought.
Well, it would certainly slow people down, wouldn't it?
Well, just for a short time, and then they could carry on at whatever speed they wanted. I just think it might be better.
Right, okay. All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Betty.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good to hear from you. Paul said, and look, if you turn into a road and a passenger, pedestrian, I think, is crossing, they have the right of way. Certainly, if you're approaching and somebody is crossing the road, but if you're driving, let's just say you're turning left or turning right into a road, and somebody doesn't even look and saunters out into the road, then surely the highway code says look right, look left, look right again. If pedestrians simply don't and treat every road like a zebra crossing, then surely, and obviously the driver will be responsible. But the trouble is, if somebody is doing that 30 miles per hour, even 20 miles per hour, and somebody wanders out in front of them without looking, that's dangerous as well, isn't it? It does cut both ways. I'm completely lost for words, says Big John. The Ramsey Beach opposite the lifeboat station is totally filthy. Send us a photo, would you, Big John? That'd be nice. I've never heard of a law saying dogs must be on a lead, says Alan. They can't be at large. And there are some things that say dogs must be on the lead in certain areas around the Isle of Man. And as David said, the point is a dog being under control. So if somebody has let the dog off and they're 20, 30, 40 yards away from the dog, that's not under control, is it? 3 months ago, a young person was attacked in Ramsey by a dog and sustained a serious injury, but due to lack of governance. There's never a warden around. The dog warden is never around in Ramsey. Well, I wonder if that's true, if you're responsible for the dog warden, or indeed if you are the dog warden. What do you think of that? Peter joins us now. Hi, Peter. Hello.
Oh, hello. I've just been having a little sleep waiting.
Okay.
I was listening, actually. Show Along I've Been Waiting. Dewan was on, and he was talking a lot of good common sense, as he always does. He's quite right about everything that he said. I was at the meeting last night. I would say that I've only met one person who's in favour of what's going on with regard to the 20 miles an hour. And so that's not very many. However, I do think that it's a bit of a reflection on the days that we're in, that when an idea takes root, I think whatever the public thinks doesn't seem to have any impact. But we have got a general election coming up, and we'll be able to express our views there. The other thing is, I don't think it's been thought through as to what effect it's going to have on the visitors for the TT. I mean, I just wonder how they will react when they come to the island next year and find that the whole mass of 20 miles an hour. And it'll be very interesting to see if the word gets around, because it could be the end of the TT, you know, if the Isle of Man has suddenly gone like Wales, where you could hardly move around in a town or a city. So I don't think they've even considered that. But what I wanted just to say was, having sat and listened to several contributors, I wasn't going to say anything about dogs, but I happened to be in the Keys when they were discussing the legislation. Maybe it was the latest one about dogs. There was a move some years ago where they wanted to insist that dogs had to be on leads, and it got amended. And I'll tell you what wording they used, unless they have changed it. The wording was not just control, but the word effective control. Now, effective is going to add quite a bit. I don't think it's ever been interpreted by the courts, and it would be interesting to see what they said. But I think there's a bit of a difference between control and effective, and it probably tightens it up to some extent, but it's unknown until a case were to arise, I think, just to give you that information.
It's always down to the dog owner, just like everything else. The antisocial behaviour is, the person who drops litter, the person who doesn't pick up after their dog, the person who doesn't control their dog. It's appealing to people's better nature who don't have one, Peter.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to talk about what I rang in about. I'll come back to you again. I was going to talk about Iran, which is to take us right away from the things of the Isle of Man. But I'll just say one other thing. You were talking about crossings and so on. Yeah. I'll tell you what I do nowadays. There is... you're quite right. There is a tendency for people just to wander across the road and they're not following the highway code, and that is quite common now. The only thing that I tend to do is I've got it sort of locked into my system that because people are wandering around in a daze due to all these mobile phones that they stare at as if they were some sort of new god, I've got to the stage where I'm extremely cautious whenever I see anyone approaching a pedestrian crossing, just in case they do just walk straight over. I think it's just a question of the times we live in. I'm sorry to say that there are a number of people who seem to be oblivious to what they should be doing. They are likely to walk across the road, I'm afraid. Sometimes they do it where you've got pelican crossings. Sometimes they do it where you've got traffic lights. The other day, I was coming down into the city, and lights were on green. There is a pelican crossing there, and a lady, not a young lady, cheerfully walked straight across, and she wasn't looking at all, fortunately, because I've got this sort of hazard idea locked into my mind that I've got to be careful whenever I see her. I sort of slowed down and let her go across, but she was walking across on the green.
Yeah.
I think it's a problem. It's not been talked about very much, but I think you've unearthed quite a problem.
Okay.
But I'll say no more. I'll come back to you. I want to say something about Iran, but it's far too late now to say it. I'll try again, and I'll come on earlier.
Appreciate it. Thanks for calling today, Peter. Just wonder whether you think then there are some people who just misunderstand the highway code and misunderstand what their responsibilities are as a pedestrian, as in approaching the curb, looking right, look left, look right again. How many people, if you're a driver, how many people do you see actually do that? And if we are, if there's a growing generation of people who don't quite know the rules of the road, what do we do about that while we're polishing off a 20-mile-per-hour limit? What about some legislation for pedestrians, perhaps? John's on now. Hi, John.
Hi, Andy.
Go ahead, John.
Hello? Yeah, no, Andy, just a quick one. Ramsey Beach, it's absolutely filthy. Peel Beach, spotless. Port Island Beach, spotless. So how is Ramsey any different than any other beach? It's the only beach people in Ramsey have.
Okay, this is South Beach, not the Murrock, yeah?
Yeah, the South Beach. It's the only good patch of sand where people go there in the summer. As to why the commissioners won't clean it, it's beyond me. They're coming out with baloney. There's grass on it. It could be really good for the birds nesting. It's absolute rubbish. Why don't these commissioners really get some common sense in Ramsey? Do decent, send a digger down, clean it off, rake it off. Because for some young families in Ramsey, that is their summer holiday if they haven't got the money to go on a foreign holiday. They're so out of touch in Ramsey, it's unbelievable. Just take a look how filthy that beach is. These commissioners we have should hang their head in shame. It's absolutely disgusting. I'm lost for words every year. Last year we had a 50-ton digger put on top of it. This year it's just strewn with rubbish. Seaweed that's been there 6 or 7 months that's turned into like barbed wire. Andy, what's wrong with them?
Okay, all right. Well, you put that on record. Thanks for calling today, John. We appreciate it. I want to go to Steve now. Hi, Steve.
How you doing, Andy? All right?
Very well, thanks. Yeah, you got about a minute.
Yeah, very quickly. I just think it's a joke about this Dr. Allison wanting to bring out this tax for the NHS, state Manx care. Absolutely ridiculous. In order to pay for things, we need more money coming in, and we need bigger budgets and things. 5,000 quid for a single person, £10,000 for a... He's off his head. And the thing is, what annoys me is, the government can give £2.5 million away to foreign aid, and yet things at home are all over the place. It's an absolute joke. I don't know why they get away with it. £2.5 million on foreign aid when we have a health service like we have. I don't get it. I do not understand it, Andy.
Okay, so I mean, would you say they should put the general rate of tax up, or what? If the extra money's needed, how do we get it?
Well, maybe if the government hadn't wasted our money and spent it on absolute willy-nilly useless things, we wouldn't need more money. We wouldn't need to put anything up, Andy. But this is where we're going around in circles. Should we put this up? All we want to do, the government, is tax. How get more money in? How can we get more in? How can we do this? And it is an absolute farce, and it's gone round in circles. This Isle of Man, in 3 years, do your figures, will be bankrupt. Absolute bankrupt the way it's running itself, and it is a joke.
The way out of this, then, surely, is to do more business. I mean, that's what we did back in the 80s. We were nearly broke in the 1980s, but with backs to the wall, they went and got business.
Exactly, Andy. Honestly, I'm not trying to be hot-headed, and I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to say it as it is. The ministers this government wants emptying. It wants upside down, getting rid of them all, and getting a fresh government in to actually work for the island and work for the people. Look as the island was years ago, and let's start learn lessons from what they had years ago. The island is not a patch on what it used to be. And all they're doing is around bringing these silly policies in, and all you hear on Manx radios is 20-mile-an-hour rubbish, or beaches. No disrespect, there's a beach that's not clean. We've got bigger problems than a beach that's not clean or a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And if nothing's done, we're heading for bankruptcy. And that's the way it is. 2.5 million they give away. Very quickly, the Manx people buy a steam packet boat. We own the steam. They spend the money on the steam packet ferry. They spend it on the docking station. So we own it all, and then charge us an absolute mint to get on the boat. We already own it. So why are we paying so much money to get on a ferry when we own it? There's no sense in what the government do. And they spend our money that we take off us in our taxing rates, and they spend it willy-nilly, and then they say, oh, we've got no money left. And I know what we'll do. We'll tax them a bit more. We'll raise that tax for them, or we'll implement this, or we'll implement that. And all they want, Andy, is money off people. And people can't do it anymore.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Steve, I appreciate it, and thanks for being honest with us. I appreciate you.
All the best to you guys. Take care.
All right, 4 minutes before 1. The state of the potholes in the Manx roads. It's impossible to drive normally, says Kevin. The services provided by the family library are unique, says Jan in Port Erin. The team there are friendly, professional, hard-working, they're dedicated. The library is stimulating and welcoming and loved by preschool, school-age children and parents, grandparents, as well as local school groups. Activities are run through the school holidays. It's a wonderful facility and well-loved. It will be a tragedy if the family library goes. I drive a little Ford. It hates 20 miles per hour. It strains along in second gear. So I'm busy looking at the speedometer. I'm paying less attention to the road ahead, says Baz. Not a Nissan Micra then, is it? The TT 20 miles per hour, if enforced widely, will kill the event, says WhatsApp at 086. To the best of my knowledge, dogs are permitted on Fenella Beach, says Derek. Is that true? Right, so tomorrow, the Infrastructure Minister, Russian MHK Michelle Haywood, is on Mannin Line. Text, email, call and WhatsApp, and thanks to Chris on the phones today.
WINT